In 2002, in the Samburu National Reserve in Kenya, a lioness found a baby oryx. The oryx had just lost its mother. It was hours old. It could barely stand, and the lioness, a healthy adult apex predator, did what lions do not do. She lay down next to it. She let it sleep against her body. She stopped hunting, and when other lions came near, she drove them away. Not away from her, away from the oryx. She was protecting her prey. This went on for 16 days. Researchers watched. Cameras rolled. Nobody had a framework for what they were seeing because nothing in the scientific literature said this was possible. A lion and an oryx, predator and prey, sleeping in the same patch of grass while the lion went hungry rather than harm the animal it was guarding. Then another lion took the oryx while she slept, and she found a new one. She did this 6 times, 6 separate oryx calves over 2 years. The Samburu people named her Kamuniak. It means blessed one. What she was doing had no name in biology, and the question of why she did it goes somewhere much deeper than anyone expected. Kamuniak is the most documented case. She is not the only one. In Sri Lanka, a leopard killed a female sloth bear. Then the leopard found the bear's cub alive nearby, and instead of killing it, the leopard carried it, groomed it, stayed with it for days. A leopard caring for the offspring of something it had just killed. In 2011, a bottlenose dolphin pod in the Pacific began traveling with a young melon-headed whale. The whale was deformed. It had a spinal curvature that made it unable to keep up with its own species. The dolphins adopted it, let it nurse from a female in the pod, traveled at reduced speeds to match its pace. The whale lived with the pod for years. Dogs nursing tiger cubs, cats raising squirrels, gorillas in sanctuaries adopting infant lemurs and carrying them the way they carry their own young. The list is longer than most people know, and every case produces the same reaction from researchers, which is a kind of productive confusion, because none of these cases should exist if animal behavior operates purely on genetic self-interest. Here is the problem. Evolutionary biology is built on a straightforward principle. Animals invest in offspring or relatives because that investment carries their genes forward. Caring for your own young makes sense. Caring for a cousin makes less sense, but still some. Caring for a member of a different species, a prey species, a species you cannot reproduce with, a species that shares 0 genetic material with you, carries no evolutionary benefit whatsoever. By the standard model, Kamuniak should not exist. The leopard caring for the bear cub should not exist. None of these animals should be doing what they are doing. And yet, the leading biological explanation involves a concept called misdirected parental care. The theory goes like this. Maternal behavior in mammals is triggered by a specific hormonal and neurological cascade. Oxytocin, dopamine, prolactin. These chemicals don't ask for species verification. They respond to stimuli, small size, vocalizations at certain frequencies, a specific kind of helpless movement. The stimuli that normally trigger parental care in a species can, under the right circumstances, be triggered by a different species producing the same signals. A baby oryx is small. It makes distress vocalizations. It moves with the uncoordinated helplessness of a newborn. A lioness with a recently disrupted reproductive cycle, which Kamuniak is believed to have had, may respond to those stimuli the same way she would respond to her own cub. The instinct fires. The target of the instinct is wrong by every genetic measure, but the instinct does not know that. That is the scientific explanation. It is probably correct, at least partially. But here is what that explanation does not fully account for. Kamuniak knew. She knew the oryx was not a lion. She had hunted oryx before. She had the full predatory apparatus to kill the animal she was guarding. Every time another lion or hyena approached, she made a choice, a real, repeated, costly choice to defend an animal that her survival system would normally drive her to eat. Misdirected parental care explains the initial trigger. It does not explain 16 days of sustained protection. It does not explain 6 separate adoptions. It does not explain a leopard staying with a bear cub across multiple days without harming it once. At some point, the word misdirected stops being sufficient. There is a quieter interpretation that behavioral biologists have been increasingly willing to put into writing over the last decade. Care, as a neurological capacity, may be more fundamental and less species-specific than we assumed. The same brain architecture that produces maternal bonding also produces grief, produces social attachment, produces the full range of what we call emotional behavior in mammals. And that architecture, once active, may not care about the genetic calculation the evolution intended it to. The animal does not feel the evolutionary math. It feels what the neurochemistry produces, which is attachment, recognition, something that functions in behavioral terms identically to what we would call love if we saw it between two humans. Kamuniak was not confused about what the oryx was. She was not running a broken program. She was running the same program every mammal runs, the capacity for care, and she was running it in a direction that produced no genetic return, no survival advantage, nothing the textbooks said it should produce. She did it anyway, and she did it again and again and again. The researcher who documented her most closely, Saba Douglas Hamilton, said something in an interview that has stayed with people in the field ever since. She said that watching Kamuniak, it became impossible to maintain the comfortable idea that animals act purely on instinct and genetics, that whatever was happening in that lioness was something the scientific vocabulary of the time was not fully equipped to name. In 2004, Kamuniak disappeared. She was never found. Nobody knows what happened to her. The 6 oryx she protected are somewhere in the Samburu, or their descendants are, alive because a lioness decided 6 times that the animal in front of her was worth more as something to guard than something to eat. There is no clean scientific conclusion to this. The research continues. The cases accumulate. The vocabulary is still catching up. But here is what we do know. On a continent defined by predator and prey, by eat or be eaten, by genetic self-interest running at the species level across millions of years, one lioness looked at the most vulnerable thing in her territory and chose to protect it. Not because evolution told her to, not because it helped her survive, not because it made any sense in the framework we use to explain animal behavior. Because the thing in front of her needed protecting, and something in her responded to that. We named her Blessed One. She earned it.